for over a decade. My next guest has been helping driven entrepreneurs build powerhouse mindsets that enable them to take massive action built on incredible courage, confidence, and clarity. Combined with strategic business direction, Jennifer's clients experience massive shifts and growth in their businesses, with customers and clients in over 5 continents and reaching over 10,000 plus entrepreneurs online. Jennifer is passionate about helping entrepreneurs who are creating positive change for our people and planet. She has been featured in the Huffington Post, the award-winning book Living College Life in the Front Row. When she's not traveling the globe, she's been to 27 countries and counting. Jennifer calls Toronto, Canada home. Welcome, Jennifer Trask.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
So just to let our listeners know, Jennifer is a native Newfoundlander. And so, Jennifer, when we spoke a few months ago, I asked if you can apply how you help entrepreneurs to everyday life and everyday people, and you said yes. So your topic today is how to receive what you really want. Can you help our listeners understand what they can expect to hear today from you?
So basically what we're going to talk about is what are the principles of how to allow in what you want to experience in your life. So it's about consciously creating a future that you want.
So what does it mean when you say to receive? Is it a mindset? Is it a set of guiding principles? Are there certain things that people need to think about to allow themselves to receive? Because I guess some people don't allow themselves to receive.
That's correct. So what it means to receive is to be able to actually receive the things that you want at a basic level. And the best way that I like to think about it is we live in a stream of conscious energy, and the conscious energy that we are all a part of is where everything you want is. Everything you want is already here. It's whether or not you can gain access to it. And the receiving part is your ability to gain access to it. So an example, we're here at the radio station today, and while we're here, VOCM is on, but unless you're tuned to that station, you can't hear it. But just because you're not tuned to it doesn't mean it's not playing. So when I talk about receiving with people, what I mean is the answers that you're looking for to allow in the life experience you want are there. Are you tuned in to hear it or not?
Would you relate it to someone being open-minded and closed-minded?
That's part of it. That's
Okay.
a piece of it for sure. But it is a state of mind and a state of being. So being in a state of allowing, being in a state of abundance and joy versus being in a state of poor me and lack and not seeing things, like really seeing it's more of a negative versus positive. And I think that it's a practiced state of being, because we are all in receiving mode at some parts of the day. You're not only in one or the other all the time. But a lot of people tend to be in the non-receiving mode. So I think you always have access to it. It's always there. It's whether or not you're allowing it in. So it's almost like a door. Like either you're opening the door or the door is shut.
So your brain can only focus on one thing at a time.
Correct.
So when you're focusing on something that's wrong with you, then it's impossible for you to focus on how to get what you want.
Yes.
The answers are out there.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to figure out how to get them.
Mm-hmm.
So to live in hope and possibility is really what this receiving is that if I look hard enough, then I'll find what I'm looking for. But the first thing you have to do is figure out what you're looking for, right?
Well, yes, but I also think it's a step beyond hope. I think it's a knowing. It's a state of expectation. So when you are in a receiving mode, you know you are going to get your answer. You may not know how or where it's going to come from, but you know. And to me, when you can get into a state of knowing, and this also is part of a worthiness conversation as well, when you can get there, then that's when your life gets really a lot easier and things come to you quicker and people start going like, do you have a magic horseshoe? But what it is you've learned how to tune yourself to the radio station of receiving. It is a discipline of the mind.
I read somewhere that someone said you generate the results you think you deserve.
Correct. That is absolutely correct.
So can you talk a little bit, how does someone get into that state when they feel that they not so much of deserving it, but feel as though they don't have the ability to do something. So they settle for second best.
One of the great tools you can actually use is questioning. So if you begin to question yourself, why do I feel this way? Why do I believe this? How come I don't feel worthy of this, but they have that? I think that's a really good place to start, because the answer to the question you're asking is a much bigger answer than 30 minutes. So, but that is a really good place to start, because one of the things that I've learned over the years is that the best gift you can have is something that children have naturally, which is curiosity. And at least if you're curious, then your curiosity can lead you to an answer. And so you should begin there and asking yourself these questions, because the answers of, this comes down to self-worth and self-love, and being able to understand your deep worthiness that we all are. One of the things that I talk about with my clients, and that I'll say to everyone, is, because I don't think people think about this enough, but I think it's really interesting. So human beings are actually all walking miracles. So if you look at, from a mathematical statistical standpoint, the statistical chance of you making your way onto the planet at any given time, you in your body with your unique personality, is actually basically almost non-existent. Because if you look at the events that had to happen for you to get here, your parents meeting, their parents meeting, their parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, people having to be in the right place at the right time, the right sperm, the right egg, just everything.
Yeah.
It becomes so mathematically impossible to actually put a number on the statistical chance of you getting here. So I believe that every human being comes onto the planet not by accident, but with great purpose. And therefore, you have access to everything you need, and you are no less worthy than any other person on the planet to be able to come and live out that purpose in its greatest form. If you start to think about yourself from that perspective, you go, oh, like, I'm pretty awesome. Like, I beat the odds to get here. Well, that can't be an accident. There's got to be something more than just this little bit that I'm allowing into my life experience.
So once you open yourself up to that possibility of that it's there, then your whole life changes.
Your whole life changes, because you basically, what happens is you've turned the dial and you started to tune to a different radio station with opening to possibility and curiosity. So then what's going to happen is you're going to hear about a book, or you're going to have a conversation with someone. They're going to say something. You're going to go Google that, and it's going to start leading you down this trail. And I suspect everyone who's listening has lived enough life to know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's going to open doors to this. And so one of the things too that is very helpful, if you look back on your life and you think about something really good that happened to you, and then go connect the dots and think, what was the trail that got you there? And you'll always realize you could never have planned it. Like, if people think about, how did you meet your life partner, or how did you end up living in a certain city, or have this opportunity? And they're just things that you could never have planned for. And that all happened because you just likely trusted that one day you're going to meet a partner, and whatever. And the same thing can happen for bigger things in your life, not just some of those basics. One person who I think everyone listening will know is Oprah. And Oprah grew up very poor. Her grandmother thought she'd end up being, a helper in a home. But if you listen to interviews of Oprah, she will always say from a young age, she believed she had a great purpose in life. She believed she was here to help people. She believes in God, so she believed God would help her, and that she would use her life to be of service to others. And that belief has served her, and likely billions of people as well.
Absolutely. So Jennifer, you talked about receiving. So can you give our listeners a little more of an explanation of what exactly that is, and how would someone know whether they're in that proper mindset of receiving?
So the biggest way to know what you're receiving, well, one thing is what is actually manifesting in your life experience will tell you where you are on a regular basis. And the other thing is your emotions. So your emotions are your guide point of are you in a state of receiving or not. So emotions run the gamut from pure bliss all the way down the scale to, you know, depression and really negative emotions sort of. And in the middle is that neutral zone. And so basically the state of receiving is when you're moving up higher up the emotional scale into the higher states of happiness and joy and ecstasy. And mind you, you don't need to be bouncing off the walls every day. Don't worry. You don't have to be one of those super happy, annoying people.
Right.
Like,
yes.
But receiving is a state of being, and your emotions are your guide. And one of the things that I've learned in my journey to, you know, just creating a life that was conscious of what I wanted to experience in my life is your emotions play a role. They're telling you where your thoughts are, and they're telling you whether or not you are in alignment with the truth of who you are. So when you feel any type of negative emotion, it means you do not see yourself the way you truly are, because this analogy will help everyone. So I want everyone to think of themselves as when you come into this world, you're born and you are a little baby and you're just this pure ball bliss, right? Like your parents are oogling over you, and babies don't come into the world with any preconceived notions. They don't hate. They're just little balls of love, right?
They're just there.
They're just there.
Yeah.
And what happens is, based on the environment that they grow up in, they learn things. They either learn love, they learn hate, or any other spectrum. They learn their belief systems and how to be in the world. And so if you think about that, that means our natural state is love. It hurts to be unkind to other. It hurts to be angry, and it hurts to not be a nice person. And so your emotions are there telling you this is not who you are, and this is why it feels bad.
So use your feelings as your emotional guidance system.
Correct.
If you're not feeling good, there's something not in balance in your
Correct,
life.
because you are meant to feel good.
Right.
Even if negative things happen to you.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's not that negative emotions are bad and you should never feel bad. It's about how long do you stay there.
Bob Proctor said he doesn't have bad days, he has bad moments.
Yeah.
And then he just gets right back onto what he needs to do to start feeling better.
Yeah. So a really good guide is learning how to deal with your emotions. I never want to say bottle them up, pretend they're not there, because that doesn't work, because that's kind of the thing of like, if you have a partner and they bother you, you don't say anything. They bother you, they don't say anything. And then, 5 years later, they do one small thing and you blow up at them, right? Because you've never said anything. So that's not the goal. The goal is to feel through your emotions. But what a lot of people do is they don't question, why do I feel this way? What is the belief that's holding me here? And I think the other thing is don't be afraid of them. A lot of people are afraid to feel bad. A lot of people are really afraid to go deep and feel bad, but sometimes you really just need a good cry, right? Like there's nothing cathartic like just getting it out. Because if you don't look at something, like say you've been through something traumatic, or just someone has not been nice to you, or you've just had a rough go of it, the reality is that sucks. So allowing yourself to give that a voice, to feel those emotions, but to allow them to move through you, because once they move through you, then you're kind of like, oh, okay, what's next? And then you can begin to start feeling better and coming up with and doing things that are going to move you in the direction of positive emotions, which thus allows you to put you back in the flow of who you are, which is your receiving mode.
Which is the questions like, what do I need to do now to feel better? How can I move past this so that I can start moving towards the goals that I've set for myself?
One of the things, Jennifer, missing in too many people's lives is purpose, is a reason for people to get out of bed in the morning. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more for our listeners?
Well, I think that your purpose unfolds itself. Some people know it really young, but I think that's very few people. But what I've learned from my life experience is if you follow your joy and curiosity, your purpose will unfold.
Interesting.
I think a lot of people are like, oh, I need to find my purpose.
Yes.
Oh, and then they go into negative emotion about trying to be of service to people, right? So it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. So, to be honest, to everybody listening, the purpose of your life is joy. If you want to be of service to people, go get happy. Do the things that fill you up. Because we've all met those people. There's people who, when they walk in the room, you're like, it's you. Yes. Right? And there are other people, they walk in the room, they're like, how fast can I get out of here? Right? You don't want to be one of those people.
Absolutely.
You want to be one of those people. Like my father was like that. He was one of those people who, like, you walked in the room and you were like, it's Dad. Excellent. He will have something good to say. Right? And so when you follow what brings you joy, you will naturally find a career that really suits you, where you can be of service, because you don't have to be in, say, a specific helping profession to help people. And also, I think the best way to help people is just to be the best version of yourself, which is the most joyous version.
How often do we see people looking across the street and saying, how can they afford 2 vacations? How can they drive these big cars? And how come he's leaving 15 minutes early from work today? We spend so much time focusing on everybody else. We don't spend enough time focusing on the one thing that we have control over, and that's ourselves. And focusing on joy and happiness, and like you said, those things will just lead you naturally where what you were born to do.
Yes. And the resources you need to get there, whether the resource is a person, a philosophy, a course, money, whatever, an opportunity, they will naturally come because you're in the receiving mode.
How do we get in receiving mode?
There's a lot of ways that you can do it. And so one is, first off, follow your joy. So do things that make you happy. Be around people that you really like, that you gravitate towards.
That's key, isn't it? Who support your direction in life.
It is so fundamental. I don't know if I could express it enough through here. Like, it is the most important thing, because you become what you believe, and what you believe is shaped by what you see and what you hear and what you read and the conversations that you have.
A lot of times we'll hear excuses, like life has thrown me this, or I have these problems. And so how do people get beyond the circumstances that they find themselves in?
So basically there are 2 ways. And the first is you have to understand where it is that you stand in relation to the topic that you're on. So what receiving mode are you in is the first thing to understand. An analogy that I like to use that everybody really relates to help understand this is dating. So when you are single and dating and you're looking to find a life partner, especially if you are now in your 30s or late 30s, 40s, and you really haven't met this person yet, and a lot of people are feeling that crunch, especially if you want to have a family. So they're out looking for the one. And when you're out looking for the one, basically you are coming from a state of not having the one, of that you do not have this person in your life. And what goes out is what comes back. So the universe just keeps bringing you experiences that is not the right person. And then it can be very frustrating as a single person looking for their mate. And then someone will come along and say, oh, well, just stop looking and they'll come. You know how the saying goes. And then that person just rolls their eyes and thinks, I don't want to hear this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's a lot of wisdom in that old saying of you'll find love when you're not looking for it. And the reason is actually energetic. And you can then apply this to any area of your life. So when you are out looking for the person, you are in a state of lack and not having this person. When you decide, okay, you know what, this is too much work, I'm just going to go enjoy my life. I'm going to be awesome at work. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to go on that trip I always wanted to go on and do these things and enjoy my family and friends. Then you start moving into the abundance of what you have, the love that you do have, the joy that you do have, and you're basically taking control and enjoying your life. And it's then that someone tends to walk into your life. And the reason is because you've went from focusing on not having love to focusing on the love you already have. And because what goes out is what comes back, you're vibrating at a different level. You're now vibrating at love and joy, and people are naturally attracted to that. And the universe is also going to keep bringing you more experiences to match your energy vibration, because that is the energy that we live in the world always. That is how the world works. So that the whole concept is every subject is two subjects, the having of it and the not having of it. Most people don't have what they want in life because they're coming from the state of not having it, just like the girl who's looking for her husband so she can get married. So the goal is whatever it is you don't have in your life, you've got to somehow figure out a way to move into the having of it already. When you get over there, it will naturally come into your life.
We hear the term repetition and doing it so often that it becomes second nature, but it's also so easy to start something and then to just fall off the bandwagon.
Well, it's interesting. When January hits, everyone goes onto the bandwagon of health.
Yes.
And then they tend to fall off of it by January 10th, the 15th, I don't know, maybe the 30th if they get there. And the reason why people tend to fall off the bandwagon is because they sort of went about the goal backwards. We as human beings like things as they are, and change is hard, like naturally for humans. And we always will play out the identity that we see ourselves in. So if you have always struggled with your weight, then you likely live in an identity where you struggle with your weight, and that's who you are. When you believe that about yourself, it's going to be a struggle, a constant struggle, because you become what you believe. So just going out and saying, okay, well, I'm going to eat healthy and exercise doesn't work, because that's an external circumstance you're trying to change. But the thing that needs to change first is the internal environment, not the external environment. So you have to shift your identity, which also is your emotions around that topic and how you feel about yourself. Because most people then feel bad. See, they'll eat the cake and they'll be like, see, I'm such a slacker. I'll never get this right. And it's the self-deprecating conversation that we have in our head that keeps us in this mode. So I think it's actually part self-discipline and then part getting the tools and the supportive environment. One of the analogies I read in a book recently, which I loved, is, if you're an Olympic swimmer trying to get to the Olympics and you live in a regular neighborhood and you're getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning to go to the pool, well, you're the odd man out. But if you go live in the Olympic Village where all the potential Olympians are trying to get there, you're all getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's the normal thing to do. And so is it going to be easier for you to get up out of bed at 4 in your neighborhood or in the Olympic Village? Well, there's no question, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's going to be easier to go back after study period and this and that and eat better and all that, because your environment really shapes you. So how to get back on the bandwagon is, one, you got to actually be tackling the right problem. Most people are tackling the wrong problem. They're going for the external things to change first when they're not tackling the actual problem, which is the root, which is the internal game. And then the second thing is you got to get yourself in an environment that's going to uplift you and support you, because to me, it's the same as like trying to lose weight, but you keep bringing junk into the house. Like, good luck.
That.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. It's making it too hard, And so when we talk about receiving mode, part of receiving mode is allowing the environment and the people and the books and the right shows and listening to things and all that that can support you to move you forward. Because I think that it's discipline. It's discipline of the mind, and it's discipline of deciding that you're going to get over the hard hump. Because the hardest part of change is the beginning, right? The hardest part is if you've been a poor me person or all your life, or you've been always lived with just enough, and now you're trying to move into abundance and to move out of poor me and to be more of service to people and to yourself. Well, if you've been doing one thing a long way, it's probably going to take you a little bit more time than you would like to get really consistent the other way. And so you have to be fully committed to that end process, so that in the middle, when it's a little hard, you still stick it out.
It's not just about being involved in your life, it's being committed.
It's committed to your life. And you know, a lot of people feel like they already have so much. Well, who should I be to want more? Like, who am I to want more? Especially when so many people have so little. But you can't help someone become healthy by getting sick. You only can help from your state of abundance and thriving. And I believe, you know, the more abundant you become in financially, in joy, in health, etc., the more you have to give. When you look at some of the top givers like Bill and Melinda Gates, for example, and the amazing work they're doing with their foundation because of the wealth that they accumulated, and also their kind hearts that they have and the knowledge that they have from their life experience. And it's going to change billions of people's lives because of that. And so, you know, realizing, and we come back to that thing we talked about earlier, like, you're not here by accident. You are a literal walking miracle. You and all of us deserve for you to be living out your wildest dreams, because that's when you're going to be of best service to yourself and to everyone. And you should not feel guilty about that.
Jennifer, if people want to take advantage of the work that you do in Mindset, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to my website, jennifer-trask.com, and I'm also very active on Facebook.
That's it for this week, everybody. I'll be back next week with another interesting guest. Bye-bye for now.